what I want to talk about today is, taming the shared mailbox. What we specialize in is creating some useful functionality within a Microsoft Exchange 365 shared mailbox. And guess what? Insurance runs on these. These addresses you see here, we mined them from our customers, okay? These are the ones that our current customers are using en masse to have emails come in. And I want to level set one thing, which is, I call it the customer experience equation, where speed measured by time plus accuracy measured by quality equals value, which is transaction dollars. So there's a reason we have to care about the customer experience. We probably all do that in everything that we're working on. But there's a particular challenge with the shared mailbox because you typically have a single inbox and you might have 5, 10, 20 people working within that inbox. That's a lot of hands in one cookie jar. And you have no tools and you have no visibility into that. So along comes us to the rescue. So what I want to show you, and this is supposed to be a demo, right? We're not going to do this live because in 10 minutes, everything can go wrong and we don't want that to happen. But I've done some screenshots for you to show you what's going on. So here we have just classic Outlook, but on the left, and I'm going to talk about the add-in and the right in a second, but on the left, you'll see there's not just an inbox, there's a team folder with all of the people that are working in that shared mailbox now sort of articulated inside of that folder structure so that we can now start routing messages to those individuals, right? I'm in there, so I've got some messages assigned to me that I have to work. And then on the right, we have our add-in. So of course, what an add-in lets you do is extend the functionality of Outlook, right? And Outlook is the important part of this equation because talking to company after company after company, what agents want to continue to work in is Outlook because it's designed for email, it's easy to do, and so they want to stay within that. So we built a system that works directly inside of 365 and directly within Outlook. So the agent experience is just still Outlook, and the emails stay in Outlook, which checks lots of security boxes as well. Or sorry, it stays in Exchange, which checks lots of boxes. Okay, so we're going to talk more about the add-in here. I've blown it out and I sort of separated it out because it's actually long. You can open up and close sections. So first of all, there's this whole notion of scheduling for the agents, right? So we have that built in, so agents can be scheduled to work, and that comes into play for some of the workflow rules that we're going to talk about in a second. But they can make changes, they can add breaks and stuff like that. So the whole scheduling component, there's AI tools, which of course everything is AI these days, and we have that, so you can summarize messages. You can of course get AI suggestions as well, and we're going to talk more about that sort of agentifying process in a second. And then you can do things like route messages to other agents. You can snooze messages, which, by the way, you can't do in Outlook natively for a shared mailbox. So we created that, and we did it in a way that works for Teams. And you can tag messages. So this is important because you want to be able to differentiate, say, a claims email from a policy renewal email, from a quote email, that kind of stuff, and be able to do stuff based on that. You can add notes to your emails. Those notes aren't part of the email, they're on the side, but as the conversation moves between agents, each person can see those notes, and of course you can get a full accountability of it as well. Okay, let's talk about workflow. And I'm racing on this, I know I'm talking fast, but there's not a lot of time. So on the workflow side, we can do things like automatically distribute the messages between those team members who are working, who are on schedule, right? So you can use a round robin distribution, you can use a load balance distribution. You can create a priority queue, so you can define which tagged messages should be dealt with before other messages, which is important because sometimes we have these 10 customers we always want to service first, right? Because they're 80% of our revenue or something like that, right? So we can identify those in rules, tag them, and have the priority queues work them first, right? We can have replies automatically go back to the agent that's already been started to work with that topic, right? Because there's a certain amount of cognitive load that goes into solving the problem for the customer. Let's not keep bouncing that around to different agents. Let's try to have some conversational affinity and keep that with that particular agent. There's, again, lots of controls with that, right? They need to be working within the next little while, or you might as well give it to somebody else. You don't want to start assigning messages to agents when they're going on vacation the next day and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of controls in that. All right, I'm moving on. There's also a complete rules processing engine here, right? So you can define rules that says, hey, if a message has this, this, and this in it, assign it to one of these 4 people over here, or just this individual. It's all flexible for you. So again, I could spend 10 minutes just talking about the rules processing that we can do, but you can define rules that do really almost anything and control the workflow, the tagging, and all that kind of stuff. So come see me at the booth. We can go into that in more detail, but there's just a huge amount of flexibility here on the rules side. And they're easy for you to do. These aren't complicated things. These are designed for the business owners to manipulate, not for necessarily the IT department to do, right? Okay, accountability. We talked about the conversation history a little bit in the add-in, but you can click and get a full detailed view. And the whole thing is, we want to drive accountability in that email conversation, right? We want to make sure we know who's done what in the conversation, because that conversation isn't just one email. That conversation could be 20 emails back and forth. And the history on the right here, and that scrolls on, I've truncated it, but that gives you every agent that worked on it, how long they took, whether it was tagged, what rules applied, everything to do with that whole conversation is tracked, so you can go audit it anytime you like. We talked a little bit about tagging, and this is just an example where I've created insurance type tags, right? Cancellations, claims, policy renewals, and quotes. So the tagging serves a couple functions. A, you can at the same time associate a tag in our system with an Outlook category, which means in Outlook, you can now sort the box by category, right? And now you can see all of your policy renewal emails, then all of your quote emails, and then all of this, all in the same box, but is broken out really conveniently for you. But my favorite reason to use tagging is reporting, because in a second we're going to get into that. And one of the things that we can report on is the performance for each of the types of tags that you've created. So you can see, how are you performing on claims emails versus how are you performing on cancellation emails. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in seeing how you're performing. Okay, and this is an oxymoron, smarter AI. It's supposed to be funny, but whatever. So for me, AI is, I know everything's AI, right? And we're all talking about it, and we are too, but to me, it seems like table stakes now. You have to have it, right? And we do. So what we did, though, we did a lot of research and analysis, right? And we found that if you just tried to apply AI to the history of your mailbox and the conversation at hand, you get an okay answer, an okay one. But if you train your AI platform properly, you get great answers. So that's what, we've implemented that so that you can basically upload all your training documents, point it at a website, it'll scrape it, whatever you've got available, we'll ingest that into our RAG system if you're AI fluent, and ground the AI properly so that when you say suggested answer like this, it actually gives you a really great answer. We just wanted to make sure that when we deployed this, we deployed it in a way that gave you a quality answer and not just something that you're going to have to go edit, crazy anyway. And of course, the next step for this is, hey, can I now use a rule to automatically use AI to answer the question? Of course, that's the sort of the evolution of that, right? The other thing we did, because the other concern we had being that we have a lot of health insurance companies, for example, that use us, HIPAA requirements and stuff like that. We actually ended up using Microsoft's Azure Foundry as the basis for implementing our LLM. And we did that because we really feel that Microsoft has the best AI guardrails and security in place for doing this type of work, because we wanted to make sure we could give confidence to you that we've deployed an AI system where, yes, that message is going to get analyzed by an LLM in a secure way. Alerts, yes, you can set alerts. And how many, how long has a message gone unanswered? Yes, it will send you an alert. Am I backlogged in the inbox? It'll send you an alert, of course. Reporting, all kinds of reports. We report on everything, graphs for everything. So mailbox performance, user performance, tag performance, domain performance. You can analyze everything any way you like. There's a whole bunch of the built-in reports we have. You also have APIs, so you can go out to take the information and put it into your own BI system, so you can integrate with your current reporting systems, webhooks, all the integration you want, that kind of stuff. Man, I'm running out of time. Real-time dashboards, so you can see at a glance 27 gauges to choose from. Create any dashboard you want to see what's going on in this mailbox at any point in time.